Chapter 59. Joseph as Vizier or Prime Minister. Genesis 41, 1-57. And it came to pass, at the end of 2 full years, that Pharaoh dreamed, and behold, he stood by the river. And behold, there came up out of the river 7 well-favoured kine and fat-fleshed, and they fed in a meadow. And behold, 7 other kine came up after them out of the river, ill-favoured and lean-fleshed, and stood by the other kine upon the brink of the river. And the ill-favoured and the lean-fleshed kine did eat up the 7 well-favoured and fat kine. So Pharaoh awoke, and he slept, and dreamed the second time, and behold, 7 ears of corn came up upon one stalk, rank and good. And behold, 7 thin ears and blasted with the east wind sprung up after them. And the 7 thin ears devoured the 7 rank and full ears. And Pharaoh awoke, and behold, it was a dream. And it came to pass in the morning that his spirit was troubled, and he sent and called for all the magicians of Egypt, and all the wise men thereof. And Pharaoh told them his dream, but there was none that could interpret them unto Pharaoh. Then spake the chief butler unto Pharaoh, saying, I do remember my faults this day. Pharaoh was wroth with his servants, and put me in ward in the captain of the guard's house, both me and the chief baker. And we dreamed a dream in one night, I and he. We dreamed each man according to the interpretation of his dream. And there was with us a young man, a Hebrew, servant of the captain of the guard, and we told him, and he interpreted to us our dream. To each man according to his dream he did interpret. And it came to pass, as he interpreted to us, so it was. Me he restored unto mine office, and him he hanged. Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they brought him hastily out of the dungeon, and he shaved himself, and changed his raiment, and came in unto Pharaoh. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I have dreamed a dream, and there is none that can interpret it. And I have heard say of thee that thou canst understand a dream to interpret it. And Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, It is not in me. God shall give Pharaoh an answer of peace. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, In my dream, behold, I stood upon the bank of the river, and behold, there came up out of the river 7 kine, fat-fleshed and well-favoured, and they fed in a meadow. And behold, 7 other kine came up after them, poor and very ill-favoured and lean-fleshed, such as I never saw in all the land of Egypt for badness. And the lean and the ill-favoured kine did eat up the first 7 fat kine. And when they had eaten them up, it could not be known that they had eaten them, but they were still ill-favoured, as at the beginning. So I awoke. And I saw in my dream, and behold, 7 ears came up in one stalk, full and good, and behold, 7 ears, withered, thin, and blasted with the east wind sprung up after them. And the thin ears devoured the 7 good ears, and I told this unto the magicians, but there was none that could declare it to me. And Joseph said unto Pharaoh, The dream of Pharaoh is one. God hath showed Pharaoh what he is about to do. The 7 good kine are 7 years, and the 7 good ears are 7 years. The dream is one. And the 7 thin and ill-favoured kine that came up after them are 7 years, and the 7 empty ears, blasted with the east wind, shall be 7 years of famine. This is the thing which I have spoken unto Pharaoh. What God is about to do, he showeth unto Pharaoh. Behold, there come 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt, and there shall arise after them 7 years of famine, and all the plenty shall be forgotten in the land of Egypt, and the famine shall consume the land. And the plenty shall not be known in the land by reason of that famine following, for it shall be very grievous. And for that the dream was doubled unto Pharaoh twice. It is because the thing is established by God, and God will shortly bring it to pass. Now therefore let Pharaoh look out a man discreet and wise, and set him over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh do this, and let him appoint officers over the land, and take up the 5th part of the land of Egypt in the 7 plenteous years, and let them gather all the food of those good years that come, and lay up corn under the hand of Pharaoh, and let them keep food in the cities. And that food shall be for store to the land against the 7 years of famine, which shall be in the land of Egypt, that the land perish not through the famine. And the thing was good in the eyes of Pharaoh and in the eyes of all his servants. And Pharaoh said unto his servants, Can we find such a one as this, a man in whom the Spirit of God is? And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, Forasmuch as God hath showed thee all this, there is none so discreet and wise as thou art. Thou shalt be over my house, and according unto thy word shall all my people be ruled. Only in the throne will I be greater than thou. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, See, I have set thee over all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh took off his ring from his hand, and put it upon Joseph's hand, and arrayed him in vestures of fine linen, and put a gold chain about his neck. And he made him to ride in the second chariot which he had, and they cried before him, Bow the knee. And he made him ruler over all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I am Pharaoh, and without thee shall no man lift up his hand or foot in all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh called Joseph's name Zaphnath-Paneah, and he gave him to wife Asenath, the daughter of Potiphera, priest of On. And Joseph went out over all the land of Egypt. And Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh, king of Egypt. And Joseph went out from the presence of Pharaoh, and went throughout all the land of Egypt. And in the 7 plenteous years the earth brought forth by handfuls. And he gathered up all the food of the 7 years which were in the land of Egypt, and laid up the food in the cities. The food of the field, which was round about every city, laid he up in the same. And Joseph gathered corn as the sand of the sea, very much, until he left numbering, for it was without number. And unto Joseph were born 2 sons before the years of famine came, which Asenath, the daughter of Potiphera, priest of On, bare unto him. And Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh, for God, said he, hath made me forget all my toil and all my father's house. And the name of the second called he Ephraim, for God hath caused me to be fruitful in the land of my affliction. And the 7 years of plenteousness that was in the land of Egypt were ended, and the 7 years of dearth began to come, according as Josephas said, and the dearth was in all lands, but in all the land of Egypt there was bread. And when all the land of Egypt was famished, the people cried to Pharaoh for bread, and Pharaoh said unto all the Egyptians, Go unto Joseph, what he saith to you do. And the famine was over all the face of the earth, and Joseph opened all the storehouses and sold unto the Egyptians, and the famine waxed sore in the land of Egypt. And all countries came into Egypt to Joseph for to buy corn, because that the famine was so sore in all lands. Genesis 41, 1-57. Quote, 2 full years, end quote, passed after the butler returned to his post, and Joseph remained forgotten. Verse 1. After that time, Pharaoh dreamed a strange dream. For Egyptians, dreams were important, and they were seen as messages from the other world. In his dream, 7 fat and healthy heads of cattle came out of the river Nile and fed in a meadow. The 7 starving heads of cattle also came out of the river and devoured the fat ones. Then Pharaoh awoke. Verses 1-4. This dream was a very troubling one because in Egypt the goddess Hathor was worshipped in the form of a cow. The troubled ruler went back to sleep to have another disturbing dream. He saw 7 ears of corn or grain on a single stalk, fat and good grain. Then 7 thin ears blasted by the hot east wind sprang up and devoured the good ears. Verses 5-7. Since dreams were seen as messages from the other world, and since Hathor the goddess seemed to be involved, those men who were experts in dream interpretations were sent for, but none could see what message had been sent to Pharaoh. Verse 8. In the Book of the Dead, 7 cows appear in an offering scene, and in the temple of Hatshepsut, 7 cows are portrayed feeding in a meadow. At this point, the butler remembered Joseph and commended him to Pharaoh. Verses 9-13. Very hastily Joseph was sent for, bathed and shaved. Egyptians disliked body hair, and Joseph had to be prepared for the presentation. Verse 14. Pharaoh then told Joseph his dreams. Joseph made clear that he had no personal power in interpreting dreams, but God could give his answer through Joseph. verse 15. Pharaoh then recounted his dream, verses 18 to 24. The Egyptians had sought a meaning in terms of the other world, but Joseph, who gave all the credit to God, gave a this-worldly meaning. By making clear God's determining part, Joseph gave credibility to his words. Joseph interpreted the dreams and also provided the remedy. First, Joseph said, "The 7 fat cows and the 7 good ears of corn signify that 7 years of great and plentiful harvests are about to come. Then 7 years of famine will follow, years so bad that the good years will be forgotten." Second, preparation must be made for the coming crisis. This must begin with the appointment of a man who will take 20% of the annual harvest, or a fifth, to be stored as a food reserve for those 7 years of famine, so that the country may be saved. Third, this requires the appointment of a man to govern this solution, a man granted all the necessary powers, verses 25 to 36. Both Pharaoh and his court were pleased with Joseph's answer. Pharaoh recognized that God, however Pharaoh saw him, was working in Joseph. Since God had shown Joseph all this, Joseph was obviously God's man for the task ahead, verses 37 to 42. Pharaoh gave his signet ring to Joseph, a gold chain as his mark of authority, and fine linen to mark his office, verses 41 following. Joseph was taken through the capital in Pharaoh's second chariot for people to bow the knee to Joseph, who was now ruler over all of Egypt. Pharaoh told Joseph, "I am Pharaoh, and without thee shall no man lift up his hand or foot in all the land of Egypt." Verse 44. Joseph was renamed Zaphnath-Paneah, meaning the revealer of secrets, verse 45. Joseph at this time was 30 years old, verse 46. At the time of his enslavement, he was 17, Genesis 37:2. He had been 13 years a slave, and part of that time he had spent in prison. Asenath, the daughter of Potipharah, priest of On, or prince of On, was given to him as a wife by Pharaoh, verse 45. By making Joseph the son-in-law of the religious leader, Pharaoh forestalled hostility to Joseph from that quarter. Moreover, since in Egyptian belief Pharaoh was a god, Joseph, in effect, had to have a high rank as a priest to serve him. 2 sons were born to Joseph, Manasseh and Ephraim, verse 51 following. As Joseph had predicted, 7 years of drought and famine followed 7 years of plenty. Food shortages resulted, and Pharaoh referred all who came petitioning for help to Joseph, verses 47 to 49, 53 to 55. The famine was general, so that many foreign countries sent buyers to Egypt to buy grain. The names Joseph gave his sons are revealing. Manasseh means, "God hath made me forget all my toil and all my father's house." Ephraim means, "God hath caused me to be fruitful in the land of my affliction," verse 51 following. His bitterness was gone, and he was a great and productive man. He had not forgotten his family, but for the time he was content to let God order his future relationship to them. He does call Egypt the land of my affliction, so that his heart is still tied to Canaan. There is something more to Joseph's situation. He was convicted for attempted rape, and he was legally a slave. We can be sure that Potiphar gave him to Pharaoh. Pharaoh gave Joseph his wife. However prominent her family was, Pharaoh made the marriage. As Steigers noted, quote, "This is in conformity with the custom of an owner giving a slave a wife," end quote. A slave Grand Vizier was not unusual. Joseph answered Pharaoh in parts by saying, "God shall give Pharaoh an answer of peace," verse 16. Joseph shows a confidence in God's providence and Pharaoh's response. Joseph was now the second most important man in Egypt with vast powers. He used those powers to further Egypt, not himself. He made no attempt, for example, to avenge himself against Potiphar's wife. We can be sure that Joseph's elevation left her a rather fearful and nervous woman. In verse 51, Joseph thanks God for enabling him to forget his past and its sufferings. that is, to have no thoughts of vengeance. He could most easily have avenged himself on Potiphar's wife, and we can very safely assume that she knew it. Her days were no doubt filled with fear. Was Joseph delaying vengeance to punish her? Potiphar himself may have reminded her of her evil. Her life was surely one of dread and misery.